Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to talk about I want to live in Japan. You know, this feeling is very complicated and a bit of elaborate. Whenever I'm just checking the Instagram stories, the rich and luxury people just sharing a lot of luxury items. They are just using the Lamborghini or private jets, and they are living best of their lives while I'm just suffering. You know, I'm just checking my universe, my environment, and I feel nothing about it. You know, I'm living in Turkey. I'm 26 years old, and I'm an ordinary guy, but the things aren't very well in my life. You know, I'm really jealous of the other people's, and they are just living best of their lives while I'm suffering. I think it's really unfair. Even I tried to change my destiny or create a new life in Japan, it didn't happen. Therefore, I feel myself really backward, and I feel myself very something like I cannot say. Maybe the time wasting, maybe not worth trying, not worth trying. But at the end, I want to say something to universe. Everybody is suffering somehow, but from my childhood, I didn't feel myself to Turkish culture, Turkish identification, because this culture is very underdeveloped. If you check the developed countries, the third class, other than the Islamic countries, if you check the Islamic countries, you can check the development level. Even the sexuality is considered as a crime here. You know, just making a girlfriend, just getting the things here, and also drinking alcohol. Sometimes there are some places you can drink alcohol, but also the structure. I haven't feeling about nothing about the Turkish culture and Turkish identification. You know, you have to live here under the Turkish identification, but I always say the truth better. I don't want to live in Islamic countries and Muslim countries. From my childhood, I didn't want it. Sometimes even I just disagree with that. I need a lot of money to change my country while my family background is very poor. Even I checked the data in America, I was watching the people, just even they cannot go to the college fees are very booming there. Understandable, but the living expenses is just getting more and more, the middle class is dying. It's the same everywhere, but when the situation is getting worse and worse, people just doing the more crimes, and people just don't use to them, don't belong to their environments as well. For example, I'm living in a third class country, which is Turkey. But if you ask my opinion, did I choose to live in Turkey? No. Can I change my country? It's really hard because nobody wants to live in Turkey because it is underdeveloped. Do you want to just eat a meal, just underdeveloped breakfast, etc.? No. Does anyone wants to live in Islamic countries? I will say the truth. Nobody wants to live in Islamic countries, brother. But I'm rejecting my identification first. But even just say your identification is Turkish is also wrong because for example, let's think about the states. The America, are everyone American there? They are coming from the California and DC, maybe just another Europe, the Britannia, the Africa. They are coming from this fucking countries, and they think themselves American, while I feel myself in Turkish. Well, it is indirectly, it's a very time wasting here, you know. Everyone just go to another country. For example, if I go to Japan, Germany, people like see the Turks as an insect, and people just act them as an insect. It is like an Indian people. Look, let's say if you're Indian or Pakistani going to abroad or Vietnam or Nepal, underdeveloped countries, people just see you as a threat and underestimating you identification. Even they don't give you a job. Well, it is really hard, you know. Even if your brain is developed in a low-level education of level here, probably you won't feel yourself belong to your country. For example, let's say someone is coming from here at Turkmenistan. Right? I was watching some influencers from Turkmenistan, from maybe not Azerbaijan, but another country as well. Maybe I can say Africa. Yeah, if you just compare the Turkish situation to Africa, probably Turkey will going to win this battle. The African people, when they are coming to Turkey, they are just loving the Turkish identification. They want to accept the Turkish identification. Why? Okay, I'm going to ask you why. The basic reason for that, while they are just using the Turkish identification and they want to accept it, the basic reason for that, you know, you are going to somewhere else place where is more developed than your country, probably you will feel this country. For example, if someone is coming from Turkey, from Bangladesh, the Bangladesh people will resonate with the Turkish culture, and they will accept the Turkish culture, and they act like to be Turkish. If a Turkish person goes to Japan, goes to Europe, Germany, or Russia, probably they will act like a Russian, like a German, like a Japan. Because the Japanese culture is not the culture. The Japan as a country, Japan, is developed than the Turkey. That's the reason why if you just go to the place where more developed than your country, probably you will accept that culture. For example, I am living in Turkey, and Turkish people just forget about the collaboration. They are not collaborating each other anymore. Mostly people just don't help each other anymore in Turkey, and just humanity is that in Turkey. Nobody is taking care of the others, and everybody is trying to live the best of their lives. And the societal structure has been diminished. How can I say? Societal structure has been demolished already, and everything is underdeveloped. And when we are comparing with Japan or Germany, I have always wanted to live in Japan, and it's great to live now in Shinjuku, in Kabukicho. But the things are the money, Turkish money has no value. And when you go to another country, they are not giving you a job, and you need to go to you will just declared as a cheap labor when you go there. But it's understandable, I don't want to get knife here in Turkey while I'm just speaking or while I'm just walking around in Istanbul. It is understandable. In Turkey, you have a chance to get die when you are walking alone in the streets. But I prefer the better being evaluated as a cheap labor in Japan rather than just dying in Turkey. People just have only one life, and people want to change their lives, but it is not being easy. You need to get more money, and as your race is just declaring your destiny as well. For example, if you just burn a low passport power of the country, probably you will underestimate. For example, we are comparing the Taiwan and the Chinese people. There are two people, right? One is Chinese and one is Taiwanese. The Taiwanese passport has more value. Therefore, Taiwanese person has more value than the Chinese person, because Chinese person has less value because his passport is less power than when we are comparing Taiwan's passport. And the other things, the governments that don't want to just very passionate about just getting hire more people than from the underdeveloped countries like the Middle East, because the Middle East is a country which is fulfilled by the fights, by the battles, by the front lines. And if you are learning here, probably you will understand the inflation, the corruption. Yeah, for example, go to the Philippines, and you already people are talking about the Philippine government is collaborate. Philippine government is, for example, not just like corruption. Yeah, Philippine government has a corruption, and maybe the Nepalese government has a corruption, and the Japanese government has a corruption, and people living to Japan, and you can watch a lot of bunch of YouTubers where we are moving out to Japan, we are coming to Japan, etc. They are the same things as just getting to circling around. If you don't feel yourself, your country, and you have an identification crisis, life is going to be tough for you than ever. Because mostly you need to just adapt to yourself, to which country you have been. For example, let's assume someone, he is born in Bangladesh. His destiny is fucked up already, because he's living in Bangladesh, and when he's trying to best, for example, they don't have any free time, and when they want to create YouTube videos, for example, let's think about someone from India. You are working from morning to night and just getting the $200, and you're saying like it is enough for us. No, people they are getting the $100 and etc. But when we are comparing as an immigration crisis, if you are just going to a country as an immigrant, you are just getting worse to country. People can say that like we don't need the cheap labor, etc. There are machines and like that. That's understandable. But here the issue is rising again. Why your country members is going to another country while the underdeveloped countries cannot go to the another country freely? Well, it is also the understandable topic. People need to get a chance. Even they don't want their countries, probably need to just save up the money for the language school, which they want to go to any language school. For example, let's think about myself. I want to go to the Fukuoka, Osaka, and Aomori, Hokkaido. I know a bunch of places in Japan, but the money is being a key factor here. When I want to live in Tokyo, it is impossible, because even in Tokyo, it is something like a not a piece of cake. It is really not easy peasy. It is something like a hardship. I don't want to just get food for it. I cannot step foot for it. I want to move step one more step more. Because the Tokyo is not for my shoes. Therefore, I prefer just living in a Hokkaido, maybe in Osaka is better when we are comparing to other countries, but even the things are just getting worse. You know to get more money from the YouTube. If you are getting enough money from the YouTube, it's better. But if you are not getting enough money from the YouTube, that's really hard because you have to just find a way when you go there. Living in other countries is not easy when we're comparing your situation, because if you are an immigrant and you will just pursuing as a trade, for example, people deal with racism there. I wouldn't just think about Japan, like the racism is a K factor in Japan. Probably there's a gaijin, they have the two terms, like some of them is like saying gaikokujin is the very normal term, but gaijin is something like a discrimination and underestimating their identification. For the Bangladesh, Nepalian people, Nepal is better, and Vietnam, Nepal. If you are born in maybe Sri Lanka, if you are born in these countries, probably the Japanese people underestimate your identification and they will call you gaijin. And if you are from England, if you are from States, and if you are from Germany, people just think you gaikokujin. But that's two different things. Like, there's a discrimination. Even I just talk about it. But we cannot just change discrimination, because if your country is fucked up, probably people will going to say, and your country is fucked up, and you will come to this country and you will make this country fucked up again. Well, people will going to think about it, same the things again and again. I'm not judging them and I'm not against with them. But the thing is here, let's think about the Korea. The South Korea haven't been developed. South Korea hasn't been developed already, and the South Korea wasn't built in one day. That's the reason why in the South Korea they're just presenting, and they are just like how can I say, they're just publishing a lot of K-pop models, K-pop idols. That's the reason why just Korea just starting to make money by the idols, by the K-pop songs, etc. That's how country works. At the first, maybe we can think about the 30 years before, 40 years before. Think about the China situation. Was China good enough for as a global country? No, the China hasn't been developed a lot. Therefore, the Taiwan represents Taiwan was representing the China for a long time for in the just like European nation agreements, etc. That's the reason why after the Shanghai just get developed, after the South Korea get developed, people start to speak in English in a very good level, and the Japan just hired more than enough just Native American English speakers, the Native American teachers from America to Japan, and they taught the English to their students. Well, it is also understandable and it's agreeable. The main thing is immigration is just getting harder day by day, and just the immigration policies are dying, and when you want to go to another country, it's being impossible nowadays, because you need to make your own business. People not going to give you a bread for you. Well, it is okay if you don't want to live in Islamic country like me. Life is really tough for you, because you are competing with a lot of people. You are competing with the Turkish people first, and you are competing with the European people, and then you are trying to just open yourself to global. Okay, the global is a very good market, but can you just survive in the global market? People have a lot of abilities, and they can speak English better than mine. Therefore, in that situation, people just going to just judge you. Your English sucks, and you are doing the grammar mistake. And I will just say the truth. Is this message important or the grammar is important? I want to just say grammar is important. Then just close this video and fuck up. Because there are a bunch of people who are trying to speak in Turkish, even they do grammar mistakes. For example, let's think about some Japanese people. Maybe let's think about some other people trying to speak in Turkish, but I am not judging them, right? So you cannot judge me in English as well. If you are judging me, fuck this channel. Get the fuck out here, okay? Let's go and continue. The other thing, if your country is underdeveloped, your power is getting less. If you are saying something bad to another race, like more developed, for example, South Korea, people will going to just see you as a threat, and people are going to underestimate your identification, like these things. Let's get the fuck out here. The competition in the South Korea is really fierce, and nobody can catch this competition. In Turkey, the competition is less, but the living standards are really less either. The more competition, the more good life. But here the question arising again, what can I do in my life? And while I'm just thinking about going to Japan, buying a ticket, going to Japan is not the key factor here, because you need money when you go there, and nobody will going to give you a job. And you need to create a brand, you need to create a business, but it is not easy either. Mostly people just getting into born in a rich families, and they are getting into the world in a wealthy families, the capitals. They have born in the capitals, and that's the reason why the ordinary people cannot catch the capitals, and they need to show themselves. But even they want to show themselves, there are also bunch of competition in YouTube as well. Even you just make a great bunch of videos, you cannot catch the other people level. Because people will going to judge your English first, and they will judge your identification, and then they will judge your thoughts. There are three kind of parts here. The things I want to mention and I want to just commit to you is, I am living in Turkey, which I don't want to, and I want to live in Japan. But as I mentioned that I am not an IT engineer, and my field is not an IT or AI, maybe just evaluation of the AI, not maths. And I'm just graduated from a sociology. That's how the world basically works. If you cannot create a brand, if you cannot just make other people's life better, people are going to not hire you. For example, let's think about your architecture, right? I was just watching a movie about Kekkon Dekunai Otoka. He was an architecture, and he was just saying that life is just changing, and he cannot catch this level. And he was just trying to make more architect, and he was just trying to sell the houses, etc. But his life was very passionate, and his life was very, I really jealous of his life. And, I wish I had a chance to meet with him, Kekkon Dekunai Otoka. But the one thing is, in Japan, like, people have more flexibility, people have more deep conversations. And in Turkey, people just forget about the collaboration and the societal structures. For example, the consciousness, so social consciousness is that already in Turkey. In Turkey, the social consciousness is that. That's the basic reason why I'm just recording these videos in English. Because I don't feel myself whenever speaking English, whenever I'm speaking in Turkish, and that's the basic reason why I'm trying to speak in Japanese and sometimes English. However, I also want to mention that when I go to Japan, I need to just bring something to table, but what I can bring to table is the work. But will people love me there? No. Because if you are Turkish, for example, I was just watching the news, Turkish and Kurdish people in Japan, but mostly Turkish people don't speak about the Turkish, because Kurdish people, there are a bunch of Kurdish people in Japan, I know. I'm Turkish. But the other thing as well, people want to change their location, and countries want to go develop country. If you say me, don't come to Japan, I will say another thing. Please get all the Japanese people from Turkey out. If you say one thing that, I will also say this thing that. Because most Japanese people have more crime rates than the foreigners. I don't care, but the one thing is, if someone as a Japanese living in Turkey, I have a right to live in Japan either. You need to understand this. Idea first. Okay. The other thing I want to lastly mention that living conditions is getting worse day by day, and I really want to just change my location and country. I hope I can be successful in it. Thank you for watching me till now. I have just had a depression. I couldn't make my dreams come true. Therefore, I just want to complain about my station to you. Yeah, sometimes I'm just complaining, and I don't want to make this video longer than 20 minutes. So thank you for watching me till now. See you on the next video. I hope I will be better at just commenting my thoughts to you. Sometimes you cannot understand the things what I want to say directly, but sometimes you can understand, because if you are opening the Instagram, you are just checking the models, the beautiful girls, while just living this shitty place. If you are living in a shitty place, just a very small hometown, if you just compare yourself with the models live in a very luxury life, the luxury items, and they are living in yachts. But why you compare yourself? Why you are living? You are living under the sky. Everyone is equal under the sky, but some people more equal than others. The models, they are living in yachts, and they are just drinking whiskey, vodka, and they are not working. Do you want to just work and just look at this sky, look at this city? Nobody wants to live this life, brother. That's the reason why I'm recording videos, in order to change my destiny. If you want to change my destiny, please give a button, subscription, like, and just comment maybe. And maybe donations could be better for me. Thank you for watching me till now. I hope I can just change my life. Otherwise, I'm going to try in order to just leave this country and make a new life in Japan. Thank you so much.